In this video, let's have an understanding as how to select machine learning model whenever we are applying on the data set. See, there's a documentation available in the scikit-learn library, and this is that cheat sheet which is shared by scikit-learn team, and I'll help you understand how to read this cheat sheet, and you can use it as a reference whenever you are selecting the machine learning model for your data set. So let's start with the initial thing. Here, the first thing that we have got over here is start. So once you get started, first thing that you need to check is how many number of rows that you have got in your data set. If the number of rows is less than 50, now at that time, stop the process of applying the machine learning and get more data. The reason because unless and until you have got the enough number of rows, it doesn't make sense to apply the machine learning model. Hence, get more data. Now, if you have got more than 50 rows of the data set, then proceed with the same. And the next question that you need to ask is, are you predicting a categorical value or are you predicting a numerical value? So that is this point over here. So if in case that if you are predicting a category, then at that time, the next question that you need to ask is, do you have a label data with you? The reason because if you have a label data, it will come under the supervised machine learning. If you do not have a label data, then it comes under the unsupervised machine learning. So asking the important question whether you have got the label data or not is very essential whenever you're working on the data set. Now, if you have got a label data, then it comes under the supervised learning. Then you will check how many number of samples that you have got in the data set, whether it is less than 100K or whether it is more than 100K. If it is less than 100K, then at that time, go ahead and work with the model such as linear SVC. And if that data is not working, just check if you are working with the text data or not. If you are not working with the text data, then try using the model such as k neighbors classifier. If that is also not working, then try out the various models which comes under the support vector classifiers or the ensemble classifiers. Under the ensemble classifiers, you've got various options. You've got add a boost classifier, you've got random forest classifier, you've got XGBoost classifier. So you can use all those classifiers and check which is the one that is working on the data set. Now, if you're working on a text data, then it is preferred that you make use of this Naive algorithm. Now, if you have got a data which has more than 100K samples, then at that time it is suggested that you make use of stochastic gradient descent classifier. Now this is one of the classifier which makes use of gradients to update the parameters. So gradients are nothing but derivative of the loss function with reference to those parameters, and by making use of gradients we will be updating the parameters in a slow and an efficient manner. That's the overall idea behind this gradient descent algorithm. Here it says stochastic gradient descent algorithm, which means it's going to use each and every sample in my data set and apply this gradient descent technique. If that is not working, then go ahead and work with the models which are based out of kernel approximation techniques. Now, if the data that you're working, if it's not a label data, then check about as whether do you know the number of categories or not. If you know the number of categories, then check the number of samples. If it is less than 10K or not. If it is less than 10K, then apply the k-means algorithm. If that is not working, then make use of spectral clustering or GMM. So these are the various tasks that you can do when you want to predict the set of categories. So which overall comes under the task of clustering. Now, if you have got a data which is greater than 10K, then it is suggested that you make use of mini batch k-means technique. Now, if you do not know the number of categories and if the data samples is less than 10K, then try making use of mean shift or VBGMM techniques. Now, if it is not less than 10K, then obviously it's a tough luck. No one can help you. Now, coming to the regression task, if you are predicting a quantity, then at that time it comes under the task of regression. If the number of samples is less than 100k, then in that scenario, obviously few features should be important. So it is suggested that you make use of a techniques like lasso regression and the elastic net regression. If not, try making use of ridge regression or the support vector regressor by making use of the kernel technique of linear. If that is not working, then you can try around with the complex kernels like Gaussian RBF kernel. Or if that is also not working, try make use of ensemble regressors like decision tree regressor, random forest regressor, adder boost regressor, gradient boosting regressor, XGBoost regressor. You can make use of all those regressors to check whether it is working well on the given scenarios. If the data is more than 100k, even in this scenario, it is suggested that we make use of stochastic gradient descent approach. Now, if I'm not predicting a quantity, which means I'm trying to just look out for the data set. In that scenario, the suggested technique is apply the randomized PCA. If that is not working, depending on the number of samples, if it is less than 10k, then try applying the isomap or spectral embedding. If that is also not working, then apply the LLE technique. If the data is greater than 10k, then in such scenarios make use of dimension. In such scenarios make use of this kernel approximation, which overall comes under the technique of dimensionality reduction. Okay, and if you're just predicting the structure, like obviously, so it's a tough luck. So there's no support from the scikit-learn library. I hope this gave you an overall view as how to select which model. I highly recommend you to check out the same from the scikit-learn website. So that will help you to get a deeper understanding and download this cheat sheet and print it and paste it in front of you in your workplace so that you will have it as a ready reference to understand as which model to use and in which scenario. So with this, we come to the end of this video. So thank you so much for watching. For more tips and tricks, do subscribe to our channel and I'll see you next time.